There is a strange pressure in the world today, and most people do not even realize how deeply it controls them. Every day you are surrounded by noise. People announce their goals before they begin. They broadcast every step, every thought, every small victory, every new plan. The world has become a stage where everyone feels pushed to explain themselves, to prove themselves, to be seen. And if you are not careful, you start believing that real progress must be visible, that real growth must be loud, that your life only matters when other people notice it. But some of the most powerful transformations in life happen in silence. Some of the greatest victories are invisible while they are being built. And some of the strongest people you will ever meet are not the ones constantly talking about what they are doing. They are the ones quietly becoming who they were meant to be. The truth is, not everything sacred needs an audience. Not every battle should be explained. Not every dream should be announced before it has had the chance to breathe. There is a kind of strength that grows away from applause, away from comparison, away from the endless need for validation. It is the strength of a person who has learned to focus so deeply on their own life, their own discipline, and their own direction that the noise of the world loses its power. That kind of focus changes everything. Because when your energy is no longer wasted on performing for people, it becomes available for building yourself. And once a human being begins truly building themselves, quietly, patiently, and consistently, their life starts moving in a way that words can never imitate. One of the biggest traps in modern life is the temptation to explain your journey while you are still walking it. You feel the urge to tell people what you are about to do, what you are planning, what you are becoming. Sometimes it comes from excitement, but often it comes from something deeper. It comes from wanting reassurance. It comes from wanting people to see potential in you before results exist. It comes from a hidden fear that if no one notices your effort, maybe it is not real. But that is where many people lose their momentum. The moment you start feeding your journey to the crowd, you divide your energy. Part of you is working, but another part is watching who is watching. Part of you is growing, but another part is waiting for approval. And the more you crave to be seen, the harder it becomes to stay rooted in the slow, invisible work that actually creates success. Real success has never been built by attention alone. It is built in quiet mornings when no one is clapping for you. It is built in disciplined evenings when quitting would be easier. It is built in private decisions, repeated over and over, when there is no reward except the knowledge that you are becoming stronger. The world loves spectacle, but growth loves silence. Growth asks you to disappear for a while from the need to be admired. It asks you to stop narrating every move and start living with intention. It asks you to become more interested in substance than appearance. Because in the end, a life is not changed by what you say you will do. It is changed by what you keep doing when nobody is there to praise you. Silence is often misunderstood because people confuse it with weakness. They think that if you are quiet, you must be uncertain. If you are not constantly announcing your progress, they assume you are not making any. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is concentration. Silence is restraint. Silence is power under control. It is the ability to hold your vision without needing to display it. It is the discipline to protect your energy from unnecessary conversations, unnecessary comparisons, and unnecessary opinions. A silent person is not always inactive. Sometimes they are simply too focused to waste themselves on noise. Sometimes they are carrying a purpose so deep that they no longer feel the need to explain it to people who cannot see what is being built beneath the surface. Think about how much energy comparison steals from a human being. The moment you begin measuring your life against other people, peace starts to disappear. You look at someone else's timeline and begin questioning your own. You look at someone else's results and begin doubting your own process. You look at someone else's visibility and begin feeling invisible. But comparison is one of the fastest ways to abandon your path, because your path was never meant to look like theirs. Their challenges are different. Their timing is different. Their capacity is different. Even their hidden struggles, the ones you cannot see, are different. So when you compare your life to theirs, you are measuring with a false scale. You are letting someone else's chapter distort your view of your own story. And that is how people lose years, not because they lacked ability, but because they lost focus. The strongest thing you can do is return to yourself. Return to your own life. Return to your own discipline. Return to the person you are becoming. Ask a better question. Not, am I ahead of them? But, am I stronger than I was before? Not, do they notice me? But am I honoring the work I know I must do? When you begin measuring yourself against your own growth, something powerful happens. You stop running a race that was never yours. You stop seeking permission to become who you are meant to be. You stop living from the outside in, and you begin living from the inside out. That is where real confidence begins, not in applause, but in alignment. Not in visibility, but in inner certainty. There is also a deep wisdom in winning battles privately. Some of the most important battles in your life will never be visible to anyone else. The battle to stay disciplined when your emotions are unstable. The battle to keep going when your efforts feel unnoticed. The battle to resist distraction, to control your impulses, to heal without becoming bitter, to remain patient when the results are taking too long. These are not dramatic battles. They do not create headlines, but they are the battles that shape character, and character is what determines whether success can be sustained once it finally arrives. A person can achieve something without character, but they cannot carry it well. They cannot protect it. They cannot use it wisely. Character is forged in quiet conflict, in unseen decisions, in the private places where no one can reward you for doing the right thing. That is why actions will always speak louder than words. Words can create an image, but only action can create a life. Words can impress people for a moment, but action transforms reality. Anyone can talk about discipline, but only action proves discipline. Anyone can speak about dreams, but only action moves a dream out of imagination and into existence. Anyone can announce goals, but action is what pays the cost. And the cost is always real. It is paid in time, in effort, in discomfort, in sacrifice, in repetition, in patience. Most people love the idea of success, but they do not love the process that gives birth to it. That is why so many remain stuck in conversation, while a few quietly advance through action. And action, when repeated consistently, becomes something even more powerful. It becomes momentum. This is where ordinary effort turns into extraordinary results, not because one day was magical, but because many quiet days were honored. A page written each day becomes a book. A skill practiced each day becomes mastery. A discipline protected each day becomes identity. This is the secret that impatient people often miss. Greatness rarely arrives in a single dramatic moment. It accumulates, it compounds, it gathers force silently until one day what looked small becomes undeniable. People call it overnight success because they only noticed the ending. They did not see the long season of invisible labor that made that ending possible. Patience, then, is not passive. It is not sitting still and hoping life changes. Patience is disciplined endurance. It is the refusal to abandon your path just because the reward has not yet appeared. It is the strength to keep planting when there is no visible harvest. It is the humility to understand that meaningful things take time. In a world addicted to speed, patience feels unnatural. Everyone wants immediate proof, immediate growth, immediate recognition. But life does not work that way. The deepest things grow slowly. Trust grows slowly. Healing grows slowly. Wisdom grows slowly. Lasting success grows slowly. And those who learn to respect that rhythm stop panicking every time progress is invisible. They understand that roots grow before fruit appears. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Intensity is emotional. It feels powerful, but it often fades. Consistency is quieter, but it is reliable. It does not depend on mood. It does not wait for inspiration. It simply returns again and again to what matters. And that is what changes a person. Not one burst of motivation, but repeated obedience to a meaningful process. Every day you show up for your purpose, even in a small way, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you reinforce your future. Every time you choose silence over empty self-promotion, you protect the sacredness of your growth. And over time, those choices build a life that looks strong from the outside because it was built strong from the inside. There is something beautiful, too, about celebrating your wins quietly. Not because joy should be hidden, but because private gratitude keeps the heart clean. When every achievement has to be displayed, it becomes easier to attach your worth to other people's reactions. But when you learn to honor your own progress in silence, you build a different kind of confidence. You become less dependent on applause and more rooted in meaning. A small win becomes precious because you know what it cost. You know the fear you had to overcome, the discipline you had to maintain, the excuses you had to reject. You do not need the whole world to validate it because the growth itself is the reward. In that way, quiet celebration becomes fuel. It keeps you grateful, humble, and focused. And then, eventually, something remarkable happens. The results begin to speak. Not because you forced them to, but because they can no longer stay hidden. The skill becomes visible. The transformation becomes visible. The confidence becomes visible. The discipline becomes visible. And the very people who never noticed your quiet effort suddenly notice the outcome. This is the moment many dream of, but the wise understand something important here. The noise was never the goal. The recognition was never the prize. The real victory was the person you became while nobody was looking. The real success was not simply arriving. It was learning how to walk with patience, dignity, and focus through the long, silent road that got you there. So let the world keep shouting. Let people keep proving, performing, and comparing. You do not have to join the noise to build a meaningful life. You do not have to announce every lesson, every sacrifice, every plan, every ambition. Some things become stronger when they are protected in silence. Some visions grow better when they are watered by discipline instead of attention. Some people rise higher precisely because they were willing to work without being seen. Focus on your life. Focus on your craft. Focus on your character. Focus on the habits that are shaping your future long before anyone recognizes the result. Because one day, the life you quietly built will say everything your words never needed to. And when that day comes, it will not matter how many times you explained yourself. It will not matter how often you told people what you were going to do. What will matter is that you did the work. You stayed patient. You stayed disciplined. You stayed faithful to your path, even when it was lonely, even when it was slow, even when it was silent. That is the kind of success that cannot be faked. That is the kind of strength that cannot be borrowed. That is the kind of transformation that commands respect without asking for it. So start now. Withdraw from the noise. Return to your purpose. Work in silence. Grow in private. Stay steady. And let your success make the noise when the time is right.